Hi class, here's the starter video for our work on the ANZAC Legend. So, every year throughout Australia, ANZAC Day is celebrated with more national pride, for some, than Australia Day. The Gallipoli campaign, as we've already seen, was clearly a military failure for the Allies, and there was an incredible loss of life. Australian troops went on to fight in even more terrible conditions on the Western Front, but contributing to military successes and obviously the overall victory, and unfortunately sustaining about 87% of all Australian deaths in World War I occurred on the Western Front. But despite the importance of the Western Front and the loss of life for Australians on the Western Front, the Gallipoli campaign has a special place in Australia's sense of nationhood. And it seems as if this feeling of the ANZAC Legend as a key part of Australian national identity has been growing in recent years. And we might ask why. Here on this slide I've got two images from 2016 showing the ANZAC Day celebrations in Gallipoli. This one here is at the Lone Pine Cemetery, and this one here is nearby to ANZAC Cove, which had to be moved because there are so many people that go now, they can't fit everybody in at the actual location of ANZAC Cove. So ANZAC Day became a public holiday in all states around Australia between 1921 and 1927. Traditionally, it included 2-minute silence and the reciting of Lawrence Binyon's poem For the Fallen. But every year, more and more Australians and New Zealanders visit the site of ANZAC Cove for the service at dawn on the 25th of April. So I've got an image here of an ANZAC Day march in Brisbane held in 1937. Here's an image of the march past the Cenotaph in Sydney, which occurred in 1930. An image of the ANZAC Day parade held in Hobart in 1950. And finally an image here of the ANZAC Dawn service in Canberra held in 1984. Perhaps you've seen in recent media what the dawn services and parades look like today. The official propaganda by the Australian government portrayed Gallipoli as a glorious campaign, and independent publications quickly appeared that also glorified the campaign. The language used to describe Australia's first military campaign as a nation was heroic and colourful, and they referred to the Gallipoli campaign as a baptism by fire and a coming of age. The qualities of the Aussie soldier, or digger, were said to be the same as the characteristics of the typical Australian: a courageous fighter, a larrikin, someone who was egalitarian or worked with people across all class lines, had a dislike for authority, was resourceful, had a dry sense of humour, and was loyal to his mates. These were the supposed qualities of the men of the bush or the outback, and became enmeshed with the idea of who an Australian is and what an Australian soldier is like. Here we have an image of one soldier carrying his comrade back down at Gallipoli for medical assistance. And another here, a colourised image of an original black and white photograph of men sitting around together and drawing on the companionship in order to get through their experiences. And finally here, a staged photograph that has also been colourised from an original black and white, although this one is from the Western Front, but indicating that sense of humour and larrikinism that Australians were so well known for. So these legendary qualities were encouraged by the writings of the official Australian war correspondent, C.E.W. Bean. And here's a picture of him here. He was present for the whole Gallipoli campaign, and he then moved on to the other theatres of war as the war went on. This picture here is of Bean in front of his tent at the Mena camp in Cairo. He wrote the official history of World War I, which actually took him 23 years to complete. And here I've got an image for you of Bean working with his files in order to write that account. The book that he wrote was very thorough, and it was all about the war in lots of detail. But it left out much of the horror, like the killing of surrendered soldiers or the self-infliction of wounds so that men could escape the battlefields. He only showed the heroic and adventurous side. He also produced a book called the ANZAC Book, which was a collection of poems, stories, writings of soldiers that became quite popular. So now it's your turn to do some thinking. You need to return to your sheet, and you're going to complete a minimum of the 5 tasks from the 16 that are listed there for your choice.